When it comes to dating, we've all heard the classic stereotypes, right? Men are supposedly all about looks, while women are looking for a guy with a good job and a solid bank account. But is that really how it works? Are those preferences hardwired into us, or is there something else going on? Okay, let's really get into this, because a fascinating new study puts this whole idea under the microscope. And what it found suggests that our romantic desires might be way more flexible than we ever thought. So, first things first, let's get one thing straight. It's a pretty well-documented fact observed across tons of cultures that on average, women do tend to care more about a partner's financial prospects than men do. That part isn't really up for debate. The real mystery has always been, why? And believe it or not, that single question has pretty much trapped scientists in an argument for the last 36 years. For decades, they've been going back and forth on where this preference actually comes from, without any clear answers. The whole debate really boils down to two main ideas. On one side, you have the evolutionary argument, which says these desires are basically ancient software, a leftover from a time when women needed a provider to survive. On the other side, you have the cultural argument, which says, nope, it's all learned. We want what our society teaches us to want. The big problem has always been, how do you even test this? In the real world, biology and culture are completely tangled up. So, to finally break this deadlock, a team of researchers did something really clever. They decided to build a whole new world from scratch, a virtual one where they could finally pull these variables apart and see what's actually pulling the strings. What they were really testing is this idea from a field called behavioral ecology. The concept is actually pretty cool. It asks, what if our desires aren't fixed? What if they're more like a strategy, something we adjust on the fly to get the best outcome in whatever situation we're in? In other words, are we adaptable players, or are we just running on old programming? So here's how they did it. They had over 600 people enter this fictional online society called Stamala. Now, here's the genius part. Each person was randomly assigned a personal income level. The researchers also messed with the entire virtual economy, setting up different gender pay gaps. And only after all of that was in place did they ask everyone the big question, okay, now describe your ideal partner. And they were incredibly thorough. We're not just talking about one or two scenarios here. They ran people through 45 different economic worlds. We're talking everything from societies where men earned double what women did to ones where things were totally equal, and even worlds where women were the high earners. So what did they find? Well, the results were frankly pretty mind-blowing. It turns out our desires are incredibly sensitive to our economic circumstances. Okay, so the first major finding was all about your personal bottom line. When the researchers assigned people a lower income, and this was true for both men and women, their desire for a partner with money and a good job shot way up. It's almost like a switch flips in our brain. The less you have, the more you need a partner who has it. But here is the real kicker. In those virtual worlds where they flipped the script, where women were making more money than men, that classic stereotypical gender gap in preferences, it just vanished. Poof, gone. Men and women suddenly looked identical in how much they wanted to partner up with someone who had more money. This was so powerful that it even caught the study's lead author, Mackin Murphy, completely off guard. He said he expected the preference might shift a little bit, but he never imagined that a brief experiment in a virtual world could completely erase a difference that we've seen for decades in real life. Now, what's really interesting is that not all preferences were this flexible. While the desire for money was like silly putty changing with the circumstances, other classic preferences were rock solid. No matter what the economy looked like, people's desire for physical attractiveness didn't change one bit, and neither did the preferred age gap. Women still wanted a slightly older partner, and men still wanted a slightly younger one. Those desires seem to be completely static. So what's the big picture here? What does this all mean for us? Well, it strongly suggests that our romantic type, at least when it comes to money, isn't rigidly programmed. Instead, it looks like we're all savvy strategists, adapting our desires to the economic world we live in. And this isn't just some weird thing that happens in a computer game. The researchers point out that we see this in the real world too. For example, in certain Haredi Jewish communities, women are often the main breadwinners. And guess what? In those communities, it's the men who tend to care more about a potential partner's finances. This experiment suggests that the economic reality is likely causing that preference shift. Okay, so let's quickly sum up the key takeaways. First, our desire for a wealthy partner is not set in stone. Second, it's strategically flexible. It adapts to our environment. Third, if your own finances are tight, you're going to value a provider more. And finally, the more economic equality there is between men and women, the smaller that traditional preference gap gets until it disappears completely. And that leaves us with a really fascinating question to think about. As our economies all over the world continue to evolve, and as women gain more and more economic power, this research suggests that our very definitions of an ideal partner might be changing right along with them. The question is, as our bank accounts change, how will our hearts follow?